The silence was the first thing I noticed. When my wife, Clara, is home, our little suburban house is a symphony of gentle chaos. The hum of the television, the clatter of pans in the kitchen, her soft humming as she reads on the couch. But Clara was gone for the weekend, a last-minute business trip, leaving me to a quiet that felt less like peace and more like a vacuum. By Friday evening, after finishing my work as a freelance writer, I found the silence deafening. I was sitting in my office, a small room at the back of the house with a large picture window overlooking the backyard. The sun had set, and my only light was the cool, white glow of my monitor. I was trying to focus on an article, but my eyes kept drifting to my own reflection in the dark glass, and past it, to the inky blackness of the yard. Our property backs onto a small, dense patch of woods, and tonight, the trees seemed to be leaning in, their branches like skeletal fingers scratching at the edge of our lawn. A sudden, loud clatter from outside made me jump. My heart hammered against my ribs. I muted my computer's audio and listened, every nerve on high alert. Silence. I crept to the window and peered out. The motion sensor floodlight above the back patio had switched on, bathing the yard in a harsh, sterile light. One of our metal trash cans lay on its side, its contents spilled across the driveway. Raccoons, I whispered to myself, the word a flimsy shield against the sudden spike of adrenaline. It had to be. We got them all the time. Still, I watched the yard for a full minute, my breath held tight in my chest. Nothing moved. The wind rustled the leaves, but the woods remained a dark, impenetrable wall. I took a deep breath, chiding myself for being so jumpy. I was alone, that's all. The usual nocturnal noises of suburbia just seemed louder, more menacing, without Clara's presence as a buffer. I went back to my desk, but my focus was shattered. The feeling of unease lingered, a cold knot in my stomach. I kept glancing at the window, unable to shake the feeling that the darkness on the other side of the glass was looking back. It was a primal, irrational fear, the kind you feel as a child when you're certain there's a monster under your bed. I tried to laugh it off, but the feeling persisted, a distinct, prickling sensation on the back of my neck, the kind that says you are being watched. I decided to call it a night. I moved to the living room, which faced the street, feeling vaguely safer with the familiar glow of streetlights outside. I put on a movie, turning the volume up to drown out the silence and my own overactive imagination. It almost worked, but halfway through the film, I heard another sound. This time, it was closer. A soft crunch on the gravel path that led up the side of the house. I paused the movie. Silence. Was it the house settling? An acorn falling? I waited, motionless, for what felt like an eternity. Nothing. I pressed play again, my heart thudding a nervous rhythm against the movie's soundtrack. 10 minutes later, I heard it again. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Someone was walking on the gravel path. I flew off the couch and flicked off the lamp, plunging the room into darkness. I crawled to the window and peeked through the blinds. The empty street was illuminated by the orange glow of the streetlights. I saw no one. No cars, no pedestrians, nothing. The footsteps had stopped. I spent the rest of the night on the couch, jumping at every creak of the house, every rustle of the wind. I didn't sleep until the sun began to paint the sky in shades of gray and pink, chasing the shadows away. Saturday was better. In the bright light of day, my fears seemed ridiculous, the product of a lonely, overtired mind. I went outside to clean up the trash. As I was putting the last of the garbage back in the can, I noticed something on the glass pane of our back door. A smudge. It was at eye level, a greasy, oblong shape, like a forehead or the palm of a hand had been pressed against the glass. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a raccoon. This wasn't the wind. Someone had been standing on my back patio last night, peering into my home. The rest of the day was a blur of anxiety. Every car that drove past, every neighbor who walked their dog, seemed like a potential threat. The comforting facade of my safe, suburban neighborhood had been shattered. My home no longer felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a fishbowl. As night fell again, I went into lockdown mode. I checked every window and door, ensuring they were locked. I drew every curtain, closed every blind. The vertical blinds on the large sliding glass door to the patio were the worst. The small gaps between the slats felt like 100 tiny peepholes, inviting eyes to look in. I sat in the living room, lights on, TV muted, just listening. Around 11 p.m., the silence was broken. A soft, rhythmic tap against the sliding glass door. I froze, my gaze locked on the blinds. The tapping was gentle, almost polite. It wasn't the frantic sound of someone trying to break in. It was the sound of someone trying to get my attention. Someone who knew I was in there. The tapping stopped. I held my breath, listening to the frantic pounding of my own blood in my ears. Then I saw it. A flicker of movement through one of the gaps in the blinds. A shadow passed by, momentarily blocking the faint moonlight. It was just a shape, a tall, thin silhouette, moving slowly, deliberately, across my patio. It paced back and forth, its form visible only in brief, terrifying flashes between the plastic slats. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. My fingers felt clumsy, numb, as I dialed 911. When the operator answered, my voice was a choked whisper. "There's someone in my backyard," I managed to say. "They were tapping on my door. They're still out there." The operator was calm, professional. She took my address and assured me a car was on its way. She asked if I was in a safe place. I was huddled in the corner of my living room, my eyes still glued to the blinds. The shadow was gone. The wait for the police was the longest 10 minutes of my life. Every second stretched into an eternity. Finally, I saw the blessed flash of red and blue lights painting the houses across the street. 2 officers came to my door. I explained everything, my voice trembling, feeling foolish and hysterical as I described the sounds, the smudge, the shadow, and the blinds. They were professional. They swept the yard with their heavy flashlights, checked all the doors and windows, and walked the perimeter of the property. After 20 minutes, they came back inside.
"Sir, there's no one out there,"
the older officer said, his expression a mixture of patience and pity.
"No signs of forced entry. The ground is dry, so there are no footprints. The wind is picking up. It was probably just a branch tapping against the glass."
I wanted to scream. I wanted to show them the smudge on the door, but I knew it would sound insane. They saw a spooked man, alone in his house, his imagination running wild. They told me to keep my doors locked and to call if I saw anything else. Then they left. I watched their patrol car pull away, its comforting lights disappearing down the street. I was alone again. I locked the front door, the click of the deadbolt echoing in the silent house. I walked through my home, which was now supposed to be safe, secure, and empty. But the feeling was worse than before. The prickling on the back of my neck was gone. I no longer felt like I was being watched. The silence they left behind was louder than any noise I had heard all night. Because now I knew. It wasn't my imagination. And the worst part wasn't the fear that the man would come back. The worst part was not knowing if he had ever truly left.